Got a table over there that forgot what the bell was for. Good morning, Rotarians and guests. It's good to have you here this morning. Ron Strobel, the Sergeant at Arms. The invocation this morning is by Father Joe Boisel.
Put away my checkbook. Let's pray together. Almighty God, by your goodness, we have come safely into this new day. We ask that you would preserve us with your mighty power, that we may not fall into sin or be overcome by adversity. And in all we do, direct us to the fulfilling of your purposes. Amen.
Thank you. And now, please join me in the pledge and the four-way test. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And the four-way test of the things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth? Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build goodwill and better friendships? And fourth, will be beneficial to all concerned. And to lead us in song, not Tom Page.
All right.
Dick Pearsall.
Okay, we want to feel real good about the gala. So we've got, our imagination is God, and we have the attitude is important. So let's sing When You're Smiling this morning. When you're smiling, the whole world smiles with you. When you're laughing, the sun comes shining through. But when you're crying, then it rains on the ring, so let your shine. Be happy again, so when you're smiling, keep on smiling. Big ending. The whole world smiles with you. That's a smile. Thank you.
Thank you, Dick. And now our president, Joe Avella.
Okay, thank you, Ron. Please be seated and continue with your breakfast. First item of business, we will have Chris Barker introduce our guests.
Good morning, Rotarians. I'm glad to see everyone smiling today. We have a few guests with us today, so I'm going to ask Joe Avella, Rich Warfield, and Gail Royster to all come up with their guests so they can give a brief introduction. Thank you. Come on up.
Come on down.
Surprise. Hey. No, Chris told me I'm prepared. We're good.
Hey, you. Ladies first.
Good morning, Rotarians. I am very happy to introduce you to Carrie Gintz, who is a recently retired senior operations manager. Oh, excuse me. Okay. Senior Operations Manager at Goodrich in Twinsburg, which is now Saffron. Do you want to just say hello, Carrie?
Hello, everybody.
She made it known for the record she is not retired. My guest today is Pete Overman from Northwest Bank. He is splitting his time between Stowe and Hudson branches, and we hope to have more in Hudson. So I will turn it over to Pete to say 2 words or 3 or 4.
Two words or 3 or 4? Okay, as many as I want. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you for having me. I feel like I was part of the greeting crew over there. I got to meet a lot of nice people, so thanks for having me. I look forward to joining and being a part. So thank you.
Okay. And my guest is my good friend and neighbor, Eileen Strauss. Eileen is retired now from director of MRI for Metro Health, and now is a full-time, pretty much a full-time volunteer at the Cuyahoga Valley National Railway and Park. So thank you, Eileen. Thank you. One announcement, Jim Ahern is not here. His wife was taken ill on Friday, rushed to the hospital. She's still there, could be a heart issue. We're not quite sure what's going on, but please remember Jim in your and Jan in your thoughts, and send a card if you would like to. James Field has an announcement.
Good morning, Rotarians. Good morning. Glad to hear that you were able to video last week, apparently with a little help from some friends. Anyway, two quick announcements. One about the Relay for Life. You could sign up online, or I have paper applications. You don't have to make a contribution to sign up, but obviously they're hoping to get contributions. Also, for those who have gotten Luminaria, I think got a couple people here, or if you've signed up, you can each get one bag because we've had some generous donations. Anyway, there's a Luminaria ceremony at the end where they put out these bags, and they have either memorizing someone who's passed away or honoring someone who's currently fighting cancer. And we'll go ahead and print up a label. However, if you like a bag, you can hand do a label. This one, I didn't do this one. It's too nice looking. So that's available as well. But the other thing I wanted to announce was, for those of you who play golf, the Hudson Public Schools Endowment Fund, their fundraiser is a big golf outing that's on June 3rd, and so that's a Friday coming up. And originally the deadline was May 1st, but they have openings still. So if you want to play in that, it's $85 a golfer, $340 per foursome, and then you could also sponsor holes. And all that money goes to the various scholarships, and also for funding various activities at the school. So it's a really good fund. So for example, if you're an accountant who plays golf a lot, maybe at Lake Forest, and county and tax season's over. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, James, thank you. On your tables, there are two sheets. One, President-elect Dave put an 8.5 by 11 sheet on it for any suggestions or comments you may have about our meetings. There's also a little pink card on your sheet. This is a form that you can use to recommend to our program committee any theme months which you might like to hear, or any specific high-powered speakers that you know of, that you're friends with, or that you know of that the program committee could invite to a meeting. Also, our program committee does have a meeting tonight. You're all welcome to attend. It's going to be at 7 p.m., second floor in the library in one of the conference rooms. So please stop by, and we can use your assistance. Ron wants to talk about the gala.
Okay, 2 days away. All the gifts are in baggies and everything else. We're all prepared. It's great to have people bringing in their checks this morning to Tom Page, and he'll accept them up until about noon today. After that, it'll be walk-ins only. Registration online will be closing today. But bidding is open, and people are bidding, believe it or not. And people are raising bids already. So if you see something you like, you better get in quick. I'm going to be passing around this clipboard again. We have some openings. We still need some more table monitors. Another 2 or 3 table monitors would be good. That'll be to help people find their items after the auction is over, and to help them kind of just make sure they close out their account on their phone. So we need people there. We need one more person to help my wife at certificate checkout. She's agreed to help because she's put all the certificates in the envelopes and knows where they are. So she'll do that, but she needs help. We can probably use a little more help on cleanup. We are good for gift delivery setup. Thanks to Kelly Brennan, he'll take care of the Corvette pickup and redelivery. So we're in good shape other than just a few of those positions, and I understand this didn't make it all the way around last week, so I'm going to start it over on that side of the room and let it come back this way. Thank you all very much for everything you've done.
Here's an idea. Allison and I have already done this. Send a link to your kids or your grandkids who don't live in this area. They can bid. They can register and bid online. So it's just, you know, another way to try and drive the revenue up for us, okay? Do it.
Hey, if you did not have an opportunity to give $1 or $2, Chris and Catherine are still around, and please feel free to donate some additional funds. Oh yeah, Ed. Yeah, well, I'll see Ed later. Yeah, he does owe us for those shorts. Okay, let's move into our program. George Snyder.
I'll take 4 back, or 3 or whatever.
Morning, Rotarians.
Morning.
This year marks the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service. And as part of this month's series on Parks and Recreation, it is my great pleasure to introduce Craig Kenkel, the Superintendent of Cuyahoga Valley National Park. It also oversees the James A. Garfield National Historic Site in Mentor and the First Lady's National Historic Site in Canton. A 32-year veteran of the National Park Service, Craig has extensive experience caring for historic and cultural resources, as well as managing parks in urban areas. A native of Iowa, like the other Craig in the room, Craig worked in Denver, Omaha, and San Francisco before moving to the Akron-Cleveland area. He was previously a regional historical architect and chief of cultural resources for the National Park Service's Midwest region, then was deputy superintendent and chief of cultural resources at Golden Gate National Recreation Area, and most recently became superintendent of the superintendent of the San Francisco National Maritime Historical Park. Despite the fact that Cuyahoga Valley National Park is about 3 miles down the road, you may not know that it is an urban park which spans some dozen communities between Akron and Independence and covers 33,000 acres of woodlands and wetlands that otherwise would be housing developments. Thanks to Congressman Ralph Regula and the late John Seiberling, it is now Ohio's only national park. It is also the only national park anywhere with a scenic railroad running some 32 miles from north to south. To learn more, please join me in giving a warm Rotary welcome to Superintendent Craig Kenkel.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure to be with you today, and usually when I give these presentations, I ask a couple questions. So how many of you have been to your national park next door in 2015? That's great. So all of you are counted in the 2.3 million visitors that came to Cuyahoga Valley in 2015, making us the 11th most visited national park. So thanks so much for that. I'm going to talk to you today about the park, as well as the service and the centennial of the National Park Service. And just a little bit of a small overview on the national parks. So the world's first national park was created by the United States in 1872, Yellowstone. Fast forward to April of this year, the 411th National Park Unit was created by President Obama, and that is dedicated to the national headquarters. Thank you. It's the national headquarters of the Women's Party for this country, and it's dedicated to civil rights for women. Next slide. And who knows? Maybe in the future, Unit 500 will be on the moon. So national parks are created either by an act of Congress or by the President of the United States under two different authorities. So we have over 400 units in that system. They represent really the amazing diversity, thank you, of our national history, of the people of the United States, as well as the landscape of the United States. Ohio has an abundance of national park units as listed here on the screen, spanning from, again, history, technology, presidents, and as George mentioned, Cuyahoga Valley being the only national park. Along here in Northeast Ohio, along with our metro park systems for Cleveland and Summit, we just are filthy rich with beautiful outdoor spaces for all the residents to enjoy. 1969, the Cuyahoga River caught fire, and that was the stimulus for the National Environmental Movement. The National Environmental Protection Agency was created, the Clean Water Act was passed, and the national policies were put in place also for the environment. At that same time, in the valley, citizen advocates were making the pitch that the valley should be set aside as a national park unit. At that time, the National Park Service was creating units next to major urban centers across the country, a newfangled kind of park called a national recreation area. The idea was to bring the parks to the people instead of requiring the people to go to the parks. So Cuyahoga Valley in 1974 was established as a national recreation area on the heels of Golden Gate National Recreation Area being created in San Francisco, Gateway National Recreation Area in New York City, and Lake Mead National Recreation Area in Las Vegas. And just some teaser photos in case you haven't been there recently. After 4 decades, the park is largely built out. We have the facilities and infrastructure in place to support visitor experience. We have incredible programs and activities for those 2.3 million visitors to the park. And it really is an oasis surrounded by urban and suburban development. And again, the people are what makes this park hum. Park visitors, as a park visitor, you may plan for a once-in-a-lifetime visit to Yellowstone or the Redwoods or the Grand Canyon. Or you may spend every day in your lifetime in your park next door in Cuyahoga Valley. And that's what sets us apart from places like the iconic parks of the West, is that of the 2.3 million visitors that come to the Valley, 80% of them are local, they're you, and you have a much closer connection to your national park. And through that connection, through that commitment, that love for your national park, you're like Eileen, you become a volunteer. So even though we're part of a very large assembly of national parks, we rank pretty high with the number of volunteers that support Cuyahoga Valley. We get over 220,000 volunteer hours a year, which for us has a value of about $6 million in terms of support and services to the park. The other thing that makes us unique as a national park is we have robust partnerships. Craig Tolman, the CEO for the Cuyahoga Valley Scenic Railroad, was with us. George served as chair of the board. Our park partners really enhance our ability to care for the park and to create experiences for visitors. An example of that would be every year we get about $10.8 million from Congress, if they're generous. And our partners actually double our operational capacity for the park. Cuyahoga Valley would be a pale version of what it is today if it weren't for the generous support and engagement that we have from our partners. So there's the Scenic Railroad that was just mentioned, and they do a fabulous job of creating diverse experiences for visitors in the park. We also have the Countryside Conservancy, which provides support for managing the 11 farms that are in production. Organic, sustainable farming happens in the valley. That is to help preserve the heritage, the legacy of farming, as well as to demonstrate to park visitors where healthy, sustainable food can come from. And then the Conservancy for Cuyahoga Valley National Park is our Friends group, and they run the Environmental Education Center, bringing kids into the park to teach them about ecology, the environment, and how they can make a difference, and hopefully putting them on a path to being involved in environmental stewardship in the future. And they're also our Friends group for fundraising. And right now they're in a $6 million capital campaign to raise some money to construct a new visitor center for the park. And they're about 2/3 of the way there. So that's just a brief overview on Cuyahoga Valley. And now the National Park Service's centennial will be being celebrated throughout the year. Founders Day is August 25th. Instead of looking backwards at the last 100 years of activities, work, and accomplishments, we're looking forward. For us, we're stepping into the second century of service and care of our national parks for all Americans and international tourists who come to visit. The national parks are owned by all of you. What's important for us is to create and connect with the next generation of park visitors. And why is that important? Millennials and the generations that are younger than them are also the new and future taxpayers, the new and future Rotarians and CEOs and politicians and superintendents. And if they don't know about us, they're not going to care about us. So we have major activities underway to engage millennials and the generations coming behind the millennials, to expose them to the national parks and to encourage them to incorporate national park experiences into their lives. At the national level, the Secretary of the Interior has an initiative called Play, Learn, Serve, and Work, and with financial support from American Express and partnering with YMCA, 50 urban cities across the country are focused on, including Cleveland, to engage over 1 million teenagers and young adults in discovering public lands, especially national parks. And our goal would be that out of this engagement, we would actually employ 100,000 of those million. We hope we can employ more to work in national parks and on our federal lands. Every Kid in the Park is a President Obama initiative to give a free park pass for 1 year to every 4th grader in the United States. And that includes their mom and dad, their brothers and sisters, grandpa and grandma. We want them to learn about their national parks, to experience their national parks, and hopefully make that a lifelong passion of theirs. The National Park Service is typically about 10 years behind when it comes to technology and social media, so we had a major initiative to catch up on that. If we're not using the latest tools for media engagement, we're not going to connect with millennials. And then finally, the urban agenda. The focus on that is that 80% of Americans these days live in cities. And 1/3 of our national park units are also in cities. So it seems really logical that we take advantage of that relationship and use those national park sites as the front door to the rest of the national park system. So there's a major focus on urban national parks, and Cuyahoga Valley is seen as a significant player in that agenda. The other thing we have is a significant media campaign underway in all different forms of media, print, TV commercials, radio, and digital. And we're wanting to use that to redefine what is a park. So when we were doing focus groups, studies, and learning about what does the average American know about national parks a few years ago, what we're finding that is that if we questioned them, most said, yeah, I know about the national parks. It's Yellowstone, Yosemite, the Redwoods, the classic iconic parks of the West. But as we asked them more detailed questions, they really did not understand the depth and breadth of the national parks. And so we thought it was really important to start to kind of do this little mashup, for example, of a Western iconic park with Martin Luther King Memorial, which is a national park unit, as well as these other examples of the Redwoods with Abraham Lincoln Memorial. And we also create an opportunity for Americans to share their national park experience. So if you go out and find your park and you want to tweet it, blog it, put it on Facebook through hashtag or Facebook, they can share their stories about what does a park mean to them, whether it's a national park or a state park or a neighborhood park. And we can learn about what Americans care about when it comes to how they spend their discretionary time and their discretionary resources. And we can then respond appropriately to further engage them in our national parks. At Cuyahoga Valley, we have a lot of fun things planned for the centennial. So if you go to the website for the National Park Service or any of our 3 park partners, you're going to find information and a link to 100 things or 100 ways you can discover Cuyahoga Valley National Park. And there's some really fun activities up there for the 100 days leading up to August 25. Some of those marquee events are one coming up next week, which is BioBlitz. And for a 24-hour period, park employees, scientists, citizen scientists, kids, families, any of you can come to the park and help us inventory the plants and animals that we come upon during that 24-hour period. We are the feature park for the Midwest. There are 7 regions of the National Park Service, so there are 6 other feature parks across the system that are doing this. And all that information is being uploaded and shared live on the National Mall in Washington, D.C. Along with that, we have a BioBlitz Festival, so anyone, if you don't want to get out and trudge around in the park, you can come to the festival and see what we find during that period too, as well as enjoy really good food and music. On June 18th, we're taking part in International Picnic Day. Who knew there was an International Picnic Day? But our goal is we hope we can get 1 million people to come to the national parks for a picnic. And to make it easy for you, that is Saturday, so the Countryside Conservancy's Farmers Market is open at Howell Meadow, so you can basically buy your picnic ingredients there and go out and enjoy them in the park. The weekend before Founders Day, we will have similar kinds of activities planned in the park too, picnicking as well as entertainment, music, art shows, and so forth. So that's in August. And then the Cleveland Orchestra and the Akron Orchestra Symphony are planning major music events for us. So on July 17th, Blossom Music Center will be the site for a festival celebrating Americana music and the National Park Service Centennial. And then in November, Akron will be having, obviously, an indoor event, but they will be showing really wonderful, iconic images of the national parks during the performance. This one's really intriguing, this American Solar Challenge for 2016. So that's college students who are on teams exploring alternative energy and transportation compete against each other to see who can design and build and drive the best solar-powered car. Cuyahoga Valley will be the starting line for that, and the course is through 9 national park units in the Midwest. And I think Michigan has, either Michigan State or University of Michigan has been the winner several times in the last few years. And then lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the future for Cuyahoga Valley National Park. The staff and I, with our partners, have gone through some strategic planning, looking ahead, forecasting what we believe 2021 looks like for the valley. And we came up with a vision that we think is very achievable, and that is by 2021, the Cuyahoga River watershed, its communities, and its national park are international symbols of human, urban, and ecosystem renewal. That really resonates with us because it underscores that the park, the valley, is not an island in and of itself, that we are part of the watershed, the ecosystem, and it's really important for us to work together for the care and improvement of the environment of Northeast Ohio and to celebrate all of the wonderful activities and opportunities that we have living in the Cleveland, Akron area. We will know that we've achieved this vision when the river is delisted and becomes designated a wild and scenic river and a national river trail. So those are our goals moving forward. My staff and I now are being very disciplined and rigorous at developing our work plans for 2017 through 2021 so we can focus our energy on this. So with that, I ask you to ask me questions about Cuyahoga Valley or the Park Service or the Centennial.
I'll start off. Anyway, just curious, what are the major tasks with maintaining a park? Is it trail maintenance? Is it clearing forests? What are the...
So it depends on the park. You know, at San Francisco Maritime, my major task was to keep ships from sinking. That's a bad day. Here at Cuyahoga Valley, that $10.8 million annual budget that we have, almost 50% of that goes to facilities management and park maintenance. So it's upkeep of buildings, roads, trails. We have 110 miles of trails in the park, mowing and so forth. And then another significant task is ongoing work to restore the forest ecology and care for the river and the watershed of the park. And then finally, to continue to challenge ourselves to create new programs for park visitors to come and enjoy and learn about the park.
You said, was it 2.5 million visitors per year to the...
2.3 last year, yes.
How do you get that number? I'm just curious. How in the world, who counts, you know?
It's a magic formula. So it's a little trickier for Cuyahoga Valley because we are a no-fee park. You know, if you go to a park that charges a fee, there's really one or two ways to get in and out, and you can easily count that. So for Cuyahoga Valley and no-fee parks, we do we monitor parking lots and we count cars and we observe license plates. And then we also, where we, points of sale within the park at the register and so forth. So my staff tell me, and it's not done locally, it's a formula that the National Park Service has and applies it across the system. And then that 2.3 million, we also do economic studies. So the 2.3 million visitors to the park last year generated or contributed about $140 million to the local economy. So that formula is even more magical. Yes.
Hi, Craig. What is your favorite park and favorite park memory?
Wow, so are you a parent?
No.
That's just like asking a parent, which one's their favorite child? So, of course, Cuyahoga Valley is my favorite national park. After almost 33 years of working for the National Park Service, one park that really resonates with me is Kalaupapa National Historical Park, and it's on the island of Molokai, Hawaii, and that is a historic leper colony. So that story is really powerful because it illustrates, a darker side of who we are as Americans in our government. And you can go there, and there are still 20 people living there that have Hansen's disease. So it's a beautiful, beautiful park. It's like being exiled in paradise. Very historic. Thousands of people passed away there. And, it's one of those places that you go to and you just feel it right here. You don't even need to read anything about it or look at the exhibits. You feel it right here. So that would be one of my top 10 parks and a very memorable experience.
Greg, we've recently seen articles and heard discussions about possibly removing the dam.
Yes. There are two dams.
Yeah, right.
So 2 dams on the Cuyahoga River, the Brecksville Dam, Brecksville Station Dam, or Route 82 Dam, and then the Gorge Dam. Yeah. So the plan is that they both get removed. Probably the 82 dam will get removed first. The EPA, national EPA or federal EPA, has invited the owner of the Gorge Dam and the county and Summit Metro Parks to submit an application for funds to remove that. So that's a really significant step, and really makes it much more of a reality that that will happen.
So the national park is in favor of that, and I know that there are
absolutely
questions about what could happen downriver with the sediment, but certainly
the sediment will not be allowed to come downriver.
Right. So yeah, that was really my question. What's the role of the national park in that effort?
We greatly support it because the Cuyahoga River Gorge is outside park boundaries. We are a stakeholder and an advocate for it, and we will provide any kind of technical support that we can. The Brecksville Dam, the Lowhead Dam, is within the park. So the National Park Service actually does not control the water or the river itself. We control the land up to the point where it gets wet. So then we collaborate with Ohio Department of Natural Resources and others regarding river management. What we are seeing is really increased recreational activity on the river, which is good for us because it tells us that the river is much cleaner, and people are coming to it and enjoying it, so we're preparing for that.
On that note, my grandson would like to know where the best fishing hole is on the river.
I've been told that some of the best fishing areas aren't necessarily on the river. They're in ponds and lakes within the park. But because the Brecksville Dam sort of acts as a barrier, I've also been told it's downstream from the dam. So.
Thank you.
Last question. Make it a good one.
Last question. How are the eagles doing?
So the eagles, the last report I had was that there were 3 eaglets in the nest, and then someone told me that photos were taken and they only saw 2 chicks visible from the nest, so I don't know what the latest count is. But the parents are still very much taking care of what's ever in the nest. Great. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Craig. Okay, thank you, generous Rotarians, for raising $153 from Fine Day today. Yep. Next week is our program, are the scholarship winners from Hudson High School, which you all contributed to, and Catherine Sines will be our host next week. Our Rotabuck drawing today is $15 and $341 for the jackpot, so it's moving up there. Yes, you could. And the winning number, the last 3 digits, 1692. 1692. Anybody?
Here we go.
Stu, again? I'll come to you, Stu. Okay. Stu did not win it this time. Okay, thanks to our greeters, Jay and Liz. Thanks to our setup crew, and thanks, Ellie. Don't forget on Friday, fully charge your smartphone before you come on Friday night. Make sure it's fully charged. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have a nice day.
Fully charged.